If you understand this, inflation won't hurt you, it will help you. In this episode, I'm going to address Biden-caused inflation will double the cost of living in less than 5 years, but how you can outpace that. So, I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist now for north of 48 years. Yeah, I'm an old geezer, and I've seen all kinds of periods of time, even hyperinflation or 14% inflation during the Jimmy Carter years. But we're back to that type of inflation again. The true rate of inflation as of the recording of this episode, which is in 2022, in the year 2021, the real rate of inflation was over 15% average. So in this episode, get ready, put on your seatbelt, because I'm going to talk about how inflation is here to stay. It's not going to go away anytime soon. I'm going to talk about why did this happen and the spiral effect that is happening because of this. I'm going to talk about the rule of 72 so you can calculate the cost of living increase and why you can use that to your advantage. How to outpace inflation and link your returns to it, because a lot of financial advisors do not even understand what I'm about to teach you here. And how to use a financial instrument that will help you earn a rate of return of usually about 5% or more than the rate of inflation at any given time. That's what I've experienced. So get ready. I'm going to give you insights into opportunities maybe you didn't know existed before. Feel free to post a comment, click like or share with somebody else that you think would benefit from this. And if you haven't subscribed, I would recommend you subscribe to this 3-Dimensional Wealth channel to get insights into opportunities like you're going to hear right now. So let's first address why inflation is here to stay for the foreseeable future. In the year 2021, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, "Oh, this is transitory inflation. It's just being a transition coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic." No, it's not. I rolled my eyes when she said that. Why? So let's talk about why it's not transitory. It's not just for a little while. Why it's here to stay for the next maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer. I think it will be longer. And what caused this to happen? So when we talk about the environment that started to happen at the end of Trump's term, remember the last year of his term is when COVID-19 happened, and he was doing things to stimulate the economy and what have you. And then Biden took over. And, there's a lot of Americans that I think voted for Joe Biden, not so much in favor of him, but it was a vote against Trump and so forth. So this is not a political agenda here. But now we're seeing the true colors of President Joe Biden and the people that surround him. So let's talk about what caused this inflation to take place and start going through the roof. When the pandemic happened, what did Congress do? They began to offer stimulus packages, and they passed legislation to extend unemployment benefits for extended periods of time, and to give all kinds of incentives and so forth so that people could make it. So they spent a lot of money. Long story short, how much did the federal government spend that they didn't have? They spent double what they bring in. Now, if you're not aware of this, the IRS during the year 2020, brought in about $4 trillion in taxes. They refund about $800 billion of that in tax refunds, and so they net, after tax refunds, about $3.2 trillion. They spent double that because of these economic stimulus packages and what have you. So they spent twice as much as they bring in. Now, when you do that, government is usually left with two options. They have to print more money or they have to raise taxes. And they've been attempting to do both. Raising taxes takes a little while to take effect, but they can print money instantly. They can just start printing more money. And I'm talking about printing way more money than the dollar bills are wearing out. And so that's what they did. They printed money like crazy, more than the federal government has ever done, in order to make up for this twice as much. I mean, if you spent twice as much as you earned, if you earned $100,000 a year and you spent $200,000, where are you going to come up with the dough? Well, you either have to borrow it from the American public, or you have to take it from them in taxes, or you have to print money. The short-term sort of solution is, hey, let's just print money and we'll figure it out down the road. So that's what they did. So at the end of the pandemic, they passed some legislation early in Biden's first year that they called, the stimulus package, the relief package. And truth be known, there was less than 10% of that actually went towards, COVID-19 relief. The other 90%, they were just slipping into that legislation, all kinds of incentives of spending that they wanted to push through, and they just put it inside of that bill. And so they ended up spending, or they will spend another, $3 trillion, twice as much as they bring in revenue. And then they continued. And so as of the recording of this episode, Biden's been very frustrated because he's been trying to push through what he calls Build Back Better. Now, it's not going to build back better in my opinion, but nonetheless, he is trying to get that through while they're still in control, because as of the recording of this episode, it's looking like the midterm elections are not going to be in favor of his administration or the Democrat-controlled Senate, with Vice President Harris breaking any ties, okay? And so they're scrambling to get some things passed that they've been trying to do. So if they do that, they want to keep printing money to be able to pay it off. But there's also other motives, I think. If they get that passed in one degree or another, and they carve it down to $1 trillion instead of $3 trillion, but if you really read the legislation, phase one is $1 trillion, but it automatically kicks into spending $2 and then $3 trillion. It's just smoke and mirrors. In essence, with everything they have up their sleeve, they will be spending about 3.5 to 4 times what they bring in revenue. I mean, initiatives they haven't even addressed yet, like Medicare for All or free college tuition, those are estimated by the Congressional Budget Office to cost over $100 trillion each in the next 10 years. You divide that by 10 years, and that's over $10 trillion a year. Where are they going to come up with the money? This is what they were going to do. They were going to stop printing money in February of the year 2021 because of the stimulus package, even though they thought, hey, let's push through some of this legislation, so let's keep printing money. They've been printing money like crazy, anywhere from $100 billion, but it's looking like more like $1 trillion extra dollars a month. So some estimates feel like we have maybe 15 or 20 trillion in circulation instead of 4 or 5 trillion under President Trump. So what does that do to the value of the dollar? I'll explain it simply here in just a moment. So they were going to stop printing in February. They decided not. They were going to stop in June. They decided not because they hadn't passed the Build Back Better. And so they're just still printing the money. Well, when you infuse the American economy with a bunch of dollar bills, those become worth less until they're worth less. Let me explain this if you don't understand. If there's a whole bunch of dollars, people who have money, okay, this is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. People who have money, when the price of cars, maybe used cars, houses, prescription drugs, whatever, when prices are such that when there is more demand for houses or used cars than there is supply, who do the sellers sell to? The ones who bid the highest, who will pay the highest prices. So there's so much money, the people with the money can afford to pay it because the dollars are worth less. And so prices go up 5, 10, 15, 20%. Gasoline goes up to 50% or more in several areas. So that's why, we pay more for diamonds because they're scarce versus dirt because it's plentiful. So if you don't understand that, you ought to watch some other episodes on this channel. In fact, click like or subscribe, post a comment. But when you subscribe to this channel, it's free, and I post an in-depth answer to a financial question almost on a daily basis. So please do that, but stay with me to the end because I want to gift you a copy of my most recent best-selling 300-page book, The Laser Fund, which retails for $20. I want you to claim your free copy. So let's connect the dots here. When we're talking about inflation, there's a simple way to calculate the negative impact of inflation, and it's the rule of 72. Most people think of the rule of 72 is how you calculate how fast your money will grow. Yeah, you divide the interest rate you're earning into the number 72, and it will tell you how fast your money doubles. That's on a lump sum. So if you started out with $125,000, how long will it take to double to $250,000? If you're earning 5%, 5 into 72, it'll take about 14.4 years. If you're earning 7.2%, it'll take 10 years to double. If you're earning 8%, 9 years. If you're earning 9%, 8 years. 10%, 7.2 years. You can use the reciprocal of that equation to determine if you bought a piece of real estate for $1 million and you sold it for double that, okay, 2 million, you may think that's great. Well, not until you find out how long you held on to it. If you paid cash and you bought it for $1 million and sold it for double that, if you had to do that after 10 years of waiting for it to appreciate, 10 years into 72 means you got the equivalent of 7.2% appreciation. Not bad, but nothing to brag about. Are you understanding this? If not, be sure and watch other videos on this channel. Inflation. If inflation is 5%, the cost of living will double every 14.4 years. Well, back in the 1980s, the government could not afford to pay Social Security recipients the actual CPI, Consumer Price Index, increase on Social Security. So they changed the way they report inflation or the CPI. They compare apples to oranges now. They can actually compare the price of steak last year to hamburger this year because it's still red meat. And they do that. So when the CPI in the year 2021 was reported between 5 and 6%, and the government thumped themselves on the chest and said, oh, we're increasing your Social Security benefits by 5.9%, ha! The real cost of living increase was about triple that, 15%. But it's because used cars, homes, food went up 15, 20%, gasoline went up 50%. This hurts the people that are on fixed incomes. Even if you have a raise in minimum wage to $15 an hour, that's gobbled up at the gas pump or the hamburger stand. Are you understanding this? So you can calculate the rate of return or the impact of inflation by dividing into 72. Well, that means if you could get by on $5,000 a month today, you're going to need $10,000 a month in less than 5 years to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread 5,000 buys today. In 10 years, you're going to need double 10,000. You're going to need 20,000 to buy what 5,000 buys today. This is why most retirees outlive their money. They can't afford to do that because their investments are not linked to inflation. What do I mean by that? Now, one of my favorite financial instruments is called the Laser Fund, and in just a moment I'm going to show you how you can learn more about this. The reason why I love this for probably 40 to 60% of your income at retirement is not only because it's tax-free, but you can link your returns to inflation. Basically, it means that if inflation goes at 5, I've always earned at least 10. When inflation goes to 10, I earn 15, 15 and a half. When it goes to 15, I earn 20. Yep. In the year 2021, inflation was 15%. Do you know what many people earned on their laser funds? 25%, 61.33%, 153% on their max funded indexed insurance contracts. Yes, I have statements to prove it to you. We had clients that in March of 2020 had 830, 40, 50,000. A year later, their value in their IUL policies without adding a dime was $1,382,000. They made over $500,000 tax-free. Not only that, but if the next year the market crashed 40%, they would not lose one dime of that $1,382,000, including the $500,000 they just made. You lock in your gains and reset. That's why I love max funded IUL or laser funds. But the key here is you're investing your money and you're linking it to the things that inflate. I don't like inflation any more than probably you do, but it doesn't hurt me. It helps me. If this is arousing curiosity, how does this work? Here's how you can learn more. You can claim a free copy of the Laser Fund book by going to laserfund.com or clicking on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost. I will pay for the book. I'll fire out a copy to you. It's actually 2 books in one. This side is 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs if you're a left brain thinker. If you're a right brain thinker, you learn by stories and examples. You flip it over to this one, 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 actual stories of how the Laser Fund is the dream solution for many financial goals. I actually have episodes on this channel that talk about how it is the dream solution for college savings, working capital for business, real estate management, emergency funds, pension maximization, all kinds of financial goals to accumulate, access, and transfer your money tax-free. So claim your free copy of the Laser Fund. And when you're there, there's options to listen and learn, watch and learn. There's even an 18-hour masterclass. And if you get on the list, you'll be notified when we teach webinars and live seminars, maybe coming to where you live.